If you were to look right now, Jay, at like the Forbes 100 list of the richest people in the world, and you were to see what they made their money from, they're not celebrities. They're not singing songs. They're not doing YouTube. Like, we're not even touching the amount of wealth they have. What do most of them have in common more than anything else? Finance and business ownership. And the businesses they own are largely boring businesses. Richest woman in the world, Kim Kardashian? No. Roofing magnate. Literally the richest woman in the world. This was as of 2022, so we should see if the numbers are updated, but is a woman who started a very large roofing company. And so, I wish somebody told us this when we were younger, because instead, you know who knows this? The private equity guys. And I don't mean to villainize anybody. I know I was in private equity. I know plenty of good people in that industry. But again, centralization of power. Private equity companies in 2000 owned 4% of the companies in the US. Now they own 20%. That's almost 1 out of every 4 companies in the US is owned by private equity. You know what they're buying like crazy? The trades, the service businesses, the boring businesses that print money, that service our community. And I think this is our chance to take those things back.
You're literally opening up a whole new doorway for people. Like, I don't think I've ever even thought about it. Like, it's so far off from what I think we were all trained to believe would make us successful, safe, stable, wealthy. Like, you're not thinking about these areas, and therefore, like you said, they're not very competitive. There's not a lot of new entrants in there. When I hear you say that, the thing that comes to my mind is, what skills and talents do people need to be able to run those businesses? How much industry knowledge do they need? What business skills are core and important? Because I think the mistake is, again, with the kind of world we live in right now, it's someone goes, oh, I love what Codie's saying. I get it. I'm going to go buy vending machines. And then all of a sudden you got a garage full of like 20 vending machines and you don't know what to do with them because you don't understand business. So what core business skills are needed, and what should we be developing in order to run any of these businesses? How much industry knowledge do we need?
Yeah, it's a great question. Well, first of all, what I would think about is there's 2 different things we need to know in buying businesses or growing businesses. And the first thing is you've got to learn how to do deal making and how to actually speak the language of money, which is what we talk about in the book, before you buy a business. So please don't just hear me and go buy a business. Read the book or go to our free newsletter online, but spend a decent amount of upfront time learning. I promise you'll make more money that way. I kind of think about, sometimes people go, well, why don't I use X amount of dollars I have instead of learning, just buying the business? And I go, does that ever work out well, where we like don't know what we're doing, but we plow a bunch of money into it because we want to just go do the thing? It doesn't work out. So spend your time learning how to execute first. Now, that said, I really think there's just 3 key skills that we need to learn to grow a business. The first one is deal making. We got to understand how to do a deal. The second one is really a mixture of grit and endurance. So it's actually not tactics. It's how hard am I willing to work? What am I willing to sacrifice for the things that I want? And for how long am I willing to do that? And so Angela Duckworth, famously, University of Pennsylvania, popularized grit as the most important thing to measure success. So it's basically like, how much pain can you tolerate? And if you can tolerate a lot of pain, turns out you have a higher likelihood of making money. Business is really just like elongated periods of low-level pain. Sometimes you have like what's called an acute or like a big jump in pain. But for the most part, you know this. It's like, what is running a business or starting a business? It's like, well, you're looking at your statements pretty much often. You're like messing around with marketing. It's kind of like low-level pain. And so that's the second point. And the third point is actually maybe a little rare too, which is just a lot of people obsess on how. So what skills do I have to have exactly? How do I start a business? How do I tax structure the business? How do I get my first customers? All important and good questions. But the real pros know you don't ask how, you ask who. Who can I go to who already has 10,000 hours where I can steal their homework? So now in business, if I go, hey, I don't know how to do our taxes, I go find somebody else who has done taxes for us. And it doesn't mean you have to pay for them. It just means you have to talk to them, and often people will help you. And so I find my who second. And then the third tier is buy. So the really, really rich, when they have a problem, they don't think, how do I fix it? They don't think, who can fix it? They think, how do I buy the solution to my problem? Because if I can buy the business, if I can buy the solution, then it's a higher guarantee of winning. And so that last one is really about your connections. And so I think if you understand deal making, you are honest with yourself about how much work you're willing to do one way or the other, and you are willing to ask people for help, I think just about anybody can run a business. Now, can anybody run Amazon? No, of course not. Could anybody run your businesses, which are quite big? No, of course not. It's really like the level of skill to the level you're at. But we don't say to people, well, not anybody could buy an individual apartment and live in them. We ask, like, what do you want? And how are you willing to work in order to get it? And so I think the same thing with businesses. It's like, okay, we have what's called the deal box, which is a little slightly technical, but basically the idea is Oracle of Delphi says, know thyself, right? Most important thing we can do. And in business, you basically want to have your little deal box of what you want. So do you want income of X amount? Do you want it to be located in LA? Do you want it to scratch an artistic itch and make you money? And you sort of fill out this box, you know what you want. And then again, the universe, I think a lot of times wants to help us out, but we don't know what we want. So how is it going to help us? Because we can't tell it one way or the other. And I think it's the same with business.
Yeah.
Because we could go 15 ways from sideways on, like, we have something called the 9 Ps, which are like the 9 ways you scale a business to 9 figures. But I don't want to stop people. Yeah. I want them to start small and reasonable and know that the biggest thing in between you and the thing that you want is the knowledge on learning the language of money, on getting after it kind of intensely, and then on asking for help. And like, if you have those 3 things, you can at least start. And I don't want people to stop because they don't have XYZ leadership skill. Like, I believe in your ability to figure it out.
Yeah. Yeah, and you might make some mistakes along the way. You
probably
will.
Yeah, for exactly. Sure. Yeah, just don't make mistakes. Like, the only rule that I really have is don't do a deal so big that it can wipe you out.
Yeah.
Make sure your first deal is reasonable, or you help other people bring on risk to level it out. So like, if I'm young and I have no cash, should I go buy $1 million business? Of course not. What would I do? I might go and I might partner with a couple friends and I might say, hey, do you want to pool our capital together? Let's buy this little business together. If it doesn't work out, it's not going to murder us. It's going to hurt, but we're going to learn a lot and we're going to diversify our risk amongst us and we're going to do it together. Yeah. Or maybe you partner with your dad, or maybe you partner with your dad's friends or your mom's friends or whatever. And so don't think that you have to do this game of entrepreneurship and acquisition by yourself. You don't. The big boys in private equity don't. You don't have to either.